This happened last summer. I was 31 and a freelance graphic designer. I moved to a quiet town, hoping for peace to inspire my creativity. I thought living in an old house would help. I thought I was ready for a fresh start. I never stopped thinking about how calming everything would be. But it all changed on my second night. I heard a tapping sound coming from the attic. At first, I thought it was the house settling. I told myself I was just nervous about the move. I figured I'd check it out in the morning when I wasn't feeling jumpy. As days passed, that tapping continued each night. It was odd, but I thought I could ignore it. Then came the whispers. I thought I imagined the voices. I forced myself to be rational. They could have been my imagination, right? But my heart raced, and sweat gathered at the nape of my neck. One evening, I pulled back the curtains and saw my neighbor. He was standing outside, staring through my window. He didn't move. He just looked at me. My breath caught in my chest. I blinked, and he was still there. After a while, he finally walked away. An uneasy feeling settled in my stomach. The following week, I found scattered old toys near my front door. I picked one up, a worn-out teddy bear. It wasn't mine. I looked around, expecting to see a child nearby, but there was nothing. Just silence. My heart beat fast. It was strange to think someone would leave toys outside my home. Maybe it was just kids playing. I didn't know. I started wondering if the whispers were connected somehow. What if they weren't in my head? I tried to push those thoughts away, tried to convince myself it was all coincidence. Each night, the tapping grew louder. I had trouble sleeping. The whispers were clearer now. It felt like they were calling me, urging me to listen. I thought I heard my name once, but I wasn't sure. One afternoon, I gathered my courage to go into the attic. I climbed the creaking stairs. My heart raced with every step. Something felt off. A chill went through me as a breeze passed by. I reached the top and opened the door. The room was dark. My eyes adjusted, revealing cluttered boxes and dust. I took a step inside, and then I heard it again, the tapping sound, sharper now. It seemed to come from within the walls. I felt something watching me. I turned to leave, but I froze. Then the voice came, clear and commanding. Don't leave. I couldn't move. Suddenly, I wasn't sure if it was my imagination anymore. What happened next sent a shiver down my spine. A shadow flickered past the corner of my eye. I glanced back toward the door. Then I heard a laugh, not a child's laugh, but something deep and unsettling. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I stepped backward slowly, trying to get out. I had to get out of that attic. I stumbled back down the stairs, my heart racing. I slammed the door behind me, breathless. But the whispers followed me, echoing in my mind. I still don't know what happened up there. Last summer changed everything, and I can't explain it. I spent the next few days in a haze, convinced I was losing my mind. Every noise felt amplified. The tapping had morphed into rhythmic thuds, and the whispers had turned into a constant murmur that seemed to echo in the air around me. I couldn't escape it. I needed answers, but I was terrified of what I might find. After a particularly restless night, I decided I couldn't stay in the house alone anymore. I packed a small bag and made my way to a coffee shop down the street. It was crowded and lively, a perfect distraction from the house. As I sipped my drink, I considered what to do next. Should I confront my neighbor? I didn't know if he could help, but I felt a strange connection to him after he watched me through my window. Later that day, I gathered my nerves and went to his house. I knocked lightly, feeling ridiculous for being so anxious. When he opened the door, I was struck by how calm he looked, as if he hadn't a care in the world. "Hey there," he said, his voice warm. Haven't seen you in a while. Yeah, I've been busy, I replied, avoiding eye contact. Is everything okay? You look a little pale. I hesitated. Should I tell him about the tapping, the whispers, the shadow? There was something unsettling about his eyes, a flicker of something dangerous beneath his friendly demeanor. So instead, I simply said, I've been hearing things in the house. I'm not sure if it's just stress. He nodded. Old houses can have a way of creaking and groaning. Might be the wind. I wanted to believe him, but the unease settled deeper into my chest. Just then, I caught sight of something behind him, pictures on the wall. They showed a group of children playing. One of them was a girl with long dark hair, a familiar face. My heartbeat quickened as I realized she looked just like the worn-out teddy bear I'd found. Who is that? I blurted out, pointing. His gaze followed mine, and his smile faltered just for a moment. Just some kids from the neighborhood, he said, but there was a hint of tension in his voice. I stepped back, my mind racing. You don't seem to have any kids, though. People come and go, he replied quickly, as if he wanted to change the subject. I felt the air grow thick between us. The whispers echoed in my mind, urging me to leave. I need to get back, I stammered, backing away. He tilted his head, watching me closely. You sure everything's okay in that house? I didn't respond. I turned and left, an unsettling feeling plaguing me. The laughter echoed in my ears again. I rushed home, my breath quickening. Just as I stepped through the door, I felt a chill wash over me. Then, everything went dark. The lights flickered and died, leaving me in total silence. I froze, heart pounding. I knew I wasn't alone. Something stirred in the shadows, a presence making itself known. Panic clawed at my chest as I scanned the room, searching for any clue of what was about to happen next. I stood there in the pitch black, straining my ears for the slightest hint of movement. The oppressive silence swallowed everything, no creaks, no whispers, just an ominous stillness. Then I heard it, a soft shuffle, like someone dragging their feet across the floor. My body tensed, panic bubbling in my throat. Hello? I called out, my voice barely audible. I didn't expect an answer, but the urge to confront the unknown was overpowering. I took a hesitant step forward, my hands outstretched, searching for the light switch. My fingers brushed against the wall, and I moved cautiously, afraid that my every sound would attract whatever lurked in the darkness. Suddenly, I felt something cold touch my hand. I recoiled, heart racing. Who's there? I shouted, trying to sound braver than I felt. There was no reply, just the echo of my own voice bouncing off the walls. Just then, a sliver of light flickered from a nearby window, illuminating the room for a brief second. That's when I saw it, a figure standing at the end of the hallway. It was a child, or at least, that's what it looked like. I blinked, and the figure vanished, leaving only the ghostly outline of where it had stood. My mind raced as I tried to process what I had just seen. I could feel my breath coming in quick bursts, and I turned to escape the room. But then I heard a soft giggle, playful yet unsettling. It danced around the edges of my mind like a taunt. I stumbled backward, deciding I needed to escape this place, this house that had become a nightmare. I made my way to the front door, my hands gripping the cold doorknob tightly. But as I twisted it, the door remained locked. Panic surged again. I turned and scanned the room once more, hoping to catch a glimpse of something, anything that could explain this. That's when I noticed a detail that hadn't registered before. The walls were covered in drawings, scribbles that swirled and twisted. My heart raced as I stepped closer. They were crude, but unmistakably children's drawings. Swings, houses, and in the center a girl with a teddy bear, the same one I had found. As I took in the chilling sight, a realization crashed over me. This wasn't just my home. It felt like a place where memories lingered, where shadows held secrets I was not meant to uncover. I felt my resolve wane. Just then, the front door swung open on its own. The nighttime air rushed in, and I sensed a figure standing outside, a silhouette against the dim light of the street. I squinted, straining to see who it was, but the figure remained obscured by darkness. My heart raced with a mix of fear and confusion, knowing I had to know more. But as I took a step closer to the doorway, the giggling returned, louder now, encircling me like a fog. I hesitated, caught between the urge to flee and the need to find answers. As the figure stepped closer, I heard a low whisper, distinct now, "Play with us." It twisted through the air, sinister yet enticing. I stood frozen, realizing that whatever happened next would change everything. The figure shifted, coming into the glow of the streetlight. It was indeed a child, no older than 8, with tousled hair and wide, innocent eyes. But there was something unsettling about the way they stood. Their smile was too bright, too knowing. "Come out and play," they called, their voice sweet but carrying an edge that sent chills down my spine. I couldn't tell if the child was real or a mirage conjured by my fear. I took a step back, but the door still hung open, inviting me into the darkness of the night. "No, I can't," I stammered, glancing back at the hallway, imagining the lurking shadows and giggles cascading around me. The air felt heavy, pressing in, suffocating. I had to break free from this nightmare. "I have to leave." The child giggled again, the sound echoing with an unnatural bounce. "You can't leave until you play." They reached out, their tiny hand extended toward me, beckoning. For a moment, I felt drawn to it, the call of innocence mixed with something sinister. It was like being drawn to a flame. Instinct kicked in, and I took another step back, my thumb brushing the cold doorknob behind me. I turned to slam the door shut, but the giggle morphed into a sharp, high-pitched laugh that froze me in place. It was laughter that shouldn't belong to a child. Suddenly, the lights in the house flickered, plunging me into darkness again. Panic shot through me, and I grabbed the doorknob, twisting it with all my strength. It still wouldn't budge. "Don't be scared," the child sang, their voice eerily soothing. "We just want to play." In the darkness, I could feel their presence. I took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage. "Get away from me!" I shouted, my voice cracking. The laughter stopped. Silence enveloped me once more. I hesitated, part of me certain I had frightened them away. But then I felt a cold wind whip past me, sending shivers down my spine. The door creaked slightly, as if something were trying to come through. I could see the faint outline of the child in the darkness, their form wavering like a shadow. "You're one of us now," they whispered, the words curling around me like smoke. I bolted, adrenaline surging as I pushed past the door that finally gave way. I stumbled out into the yard, panicked breaths escaping my lips. My heart raced, and I didn't look back. I ran blindly into the street, not stopping until I reached the safety of the neighbor's porch light. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see that child following me. Instead, the house loomed behind me, silent and dark. But I knew it wasn't over. I felt the weight of their presence even from a distance. When I reached the neighbor's door, I pounded on it, hoping for safety. But as I waited, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still close by. Something I couldn't see. Just as my neighbor opened the door, I caught a glimpse of movement at the edge of the yard, 2 figures standing side by side, both wearing those twisted smiles. "Play with us," they called in unison, and then everything went dark. I jolted awake, drenched in cold sweat, my heart racing in my chest. The silence seemed oppressive, the shadows of my bedroom dancing along the walls like memories clawing to escape. I blinked into the dim light, the remnants of the nightmare clinging to me like a shroud. I tried to convince myself it was just a bad dream, but something deep inside told me it wasn't. I grabbed my phone, the screen illuminating my trembling hands. It was 3 in the morning. I had slept for only a few hours but felt like I hadn't rested at all. The memories of the figures haunted me, a chilling reminder that I wasn't safe. I steeled myself, forcing myself to get out of bed. I needed to make sure the door was locked. As I crept down the hallway, the floorboards creaked beneath my weight. Shadows seemed to stretch and twist, almost reaching for me. I turned to the entrance, eyes darting toward the living room where I had seen those horrific smiles. My heart sank as I reached the doorway. Everything felt charged, as if the air itself was aware of my fear. When I finally reached the front door, I locked it and took a deep breath, trying to collect myself. I needed to get some answers. As unnerving as it was, I couldn't avoid the truth any longer. I had to go back to that house. Turning back to my room, I grabbed my flashlight and a jacket, shivers trickling down my spine at the thought of stepping back into the darkness. But I couldn't live in fear. I had moved here for a fresh start, not to be consumed by nightmares. The night outside was eerily calm, the stars blanketed by clouds, and I felt exposed as I stepped onto the street. Each crunch of gravel echoed loudly, reminding me of my pounding heartbeat. I approached the haunted house slowly, scanning the perimeter for movement, hoping to find clarity in the familiar yet ominous structure. Suddenly, I spotted something by the porch, a thin, crumpled piece of paper lying under the flickering light. Kneeling down, I picked it up. The paper was old, yellowed with age, and as I unfolded it, I realized it was a drawing. My breath hitched in my throat. It was a crude sketch of figures, two children holding hands, surrounded by a circle of jagged lines that looked like barbed wire. As I inspected it closer, the hair on the back of my neck stood on end. Below the drawing were words scribbled in a messy, hasty hand, "They always want to play." A chill ran down my spine. I had come looking for answers, but I was only finding more questions. Then there was rustling in the bushes nearby, snapping me from my thoughts. I shined my flashlight toward the sound, but all I caught was the wilted leaves trembling in the breeze. Just when I thought I had imagined it, a whisper floated in the night, a familiar sing-song voice, "Come out and play." I froze, the light shaking in my grip. My instincts screamed at me to escape, but my legs felt rooted in place. As darkness swallowed the yard, I could see shapes emerging at the edges of my vision. The two figures. They were back. "Play with us," they echoed, their voices chillingly sweet. Then I realized I wasn't the only one in that moment. I was surrounded. My heart pounded loudly, drowning out the sounds around me. The figures grew clearer in the dim light of my flashlight, their faces twisted with those unnerving smiles. Panic surged through me, and I finally found my legs, turning sharply to run. But the gravel crunched ominously under my feet, slowing me down, as if trying to hold me back. "Join us." They chimed again, voices ringing in my ears like a song I never wanted to hear. I darted toward the street, the light from my flashlight flickering wildly, throwing shadows across the yard. I risked a glance back, and my breath hitched. The figures were still there, standing just beyond the reach of my beam. They didn't chase me. They simply watched, their eyes glinting like milk in the moonlight. I reached my car, fumbling with the keys in my trembling hands. Why wasn't I driving away? I needed to get out of there. Just as I unlocked the door, a laugh echoed through the air, chilling my bones. It was high-pitched and light, but it sent a wave of dread crashing over me. "Stay and play." One of the boys called, his voice dripping with delight. It didn't seem like a threat, it sounded like an invitation. I jumped into the car and slammed the door, locking it behind me. My body shook as I started the engine, the sudden roar of the car drowning out the haunting laughter. My head raced with thoughts. What were they? What did they want from me? I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this than just a couple of creepy kids in the dark. I tore down the street, not looking back until I reached the end of the road. I turned sharply into a side street and parked behind a large oak tree. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel as I struggled to calm my breathing. I had to think. They had something to say. They had drawn that picture after all. Taking a deep breath, I pulled out my phone and remembered the contacts I had made since moving here. I hit the number for Mary, my neighbor who seemed more knowledgeable about the area. She answered on the third ring, groggy but alert. "Hello? Mary, it's me. I need to ask you something about the old house on Maple Street." There was a pause before she responded. "That place? You shouldn't go near it. Not after what happened." "What do you mean? What happened?" My voice rose, impatience mingling with fear. "Kids went missing around there a long time ago. It's not safe. They say their spirits linger, always looking for playmates. You need to stay away," she warned, urgency tightening her tone. I leaned back in my seat, the weight of her words crashing over me. I thought of the drawing, that line "they always want to play." Was I becoming part of their story? Before I could respond, the line went dead. My phone buzzed violently in my hand, and I glanced at the screen. A message flashed across, "They're waiting for you." Terror gripped me as I looked into the rearview mirror. A darkness loomed behind my car, a shadow that seemed to stretch and grow. I turned to look out the windshield, but there was nothing there, just the empty street. Then a chill whispered in my ear, "Play with us." I gripped the wheel tighter, knowing I had to face whatever this was. I had to find a way to put an end to it. I took a deep breath and decided to move. I couldn't just sit there waiting for whatever was out there to come to me. I put the car in gear and slowly drove out from behind the oak tree, keeping my eyes peeled for any sign of movement. The street was still deserted, and only the sound of my tires on the pavement filled the silence. I drove a few blocks, my mind racing. I had to find answers. Maybe the kids had left something behind at the house, something that might explain their behavior. I decided to go back this time. I wouldn't run. When I parked in front of the old house again, the air felt heavier. I glanced around, half expecting to see those mischievous faces peering at me from the shadows. Instead, the house stood ominously still, windows dark and empty like soulless eyes. I took another deep breath and forced myself out of the car. The front door creaked when I pushed it open. Dust motes danced in the sunlight spilling through the entrance. I stepped inside, the wooden floor groaning under my weight. My instinct screamed at me to turn back, but I couldn't let fear win. I had to know what had happened here. I moved cautiously through the rooms, each one filled with remnants of a past life. Old photos hung crooked on the walls, faces frozen in time, their smiles eerily vacant. I made my way to what seemed like a children's playroom. The remnants of toys lay scattered across the floor, a stark contrast to the mood gripping me. That's when I saw it. On the far wall hung a large, faded poster depicting a sunny park with kids playing. But the children's faces looked oddly familiar. It was as if they were the same kids I had seen in the yard. A chill slithered down my spine, and I backed away instinctively. I turned to leave the room, my heart racing. A noise caught my attention, drawing me back. It was a soft, rhythmic tapping coming from the adjacent room. I hesitated, fighting the urge to flee. What if it was one of them? What if they were drawing me in, like they had before? With shaking hands, I moved toward the sound, opening the door slowly. Inside, a small table was cluttered with crayons and paper. But what caught my eye was the latest drawing, no longer a simple sketch, but an elaborate scene depicting me with the children, all of us smiling, all of us playing. The caption read, "Come play forever." I stumbled backward, panic clawing at my throat. I needed to get out of there. I rushed back through the house, but paused at the front door when I heard a giggle behind me. It was high-pitched and haunting, echoing off the walls. "Will you play with us now?" The giggle repeated, more insistent this time. I turned quickly, but the room was empty. As I stepped outside, my heart dropped. The figures were back, standing just beyond the porch, their smiles stretching wider. They started to chant in unison, "Play with us. Play with us." Just then, the sunlight dimmed, swallowed by a sudden murky shadow that rippled across the ground. I stumbled back into the house, slamming the door shut just as a loud thud rattled the frames. The air thickened. It felt as if something was pushing against the door from the other side. Then everything went dark. I gasped as darkness engulfed me. I braced against the door, every nerve in my body screaming. I waited, breath held, for the force on the other side to reveal itself. Time stretched as I listened for any sound, heart thudding wildly in my chest. Then, a whisper slid through the darkness. "Don't be scared. We just want to play." The voice was sweet and soft, but something about it chilled me to the bone. I pressed my back harder against the wood, my pulse racing. I was not going to let it get to me. I fumbled for my phone in my pocket, fingers shaking. The screen flickered to life, cutting through the blackness. I could barely see my surroundings, but the dim light illuminated the edges of the playroom just beyond the door. The children were still there, shadows waiting just outside, their eyes shining bright in the gloom. What were they waiting for? I couldn't shake the thought that they wanted me to join them. It was uncanny how their faces resembled those on the poster. I didn't want to think about that too long. I felt a surge of desperation and flipped the door handle. It resisted for a heartbeat before giving way. I burst outside, ready to confront whatever awaited me. The yard was empty, the kids gone. The sunlight returned suddenly, blinding me for a moment. I scanned the street, searching for any sign of them, but it was quiet again, eerily peaceful. Maybe I had imagined it all. Maybe it was just my mind playing tricks on me. But the memory of the drawing haunted me, and I couldn't forget the way their smiles seemed to stretch unnaturally, eternally. I walked down the steps cautiously, but before I reached the last step, I noticed something on the ground. A small, worn teddy bear lay at the base of the porch. I bent down to pick it up. It felt unnaturally cold in my hand. The fabric was threadbare, but the dark buttons for eyes glinted oddly in the sunlight. "It's Bramble." A voice piped up behind me. I spun around, the bear clutched tightly in my grasp. There they were again huddled in the yard, their faces gleaming in the golden glow of the sun. My heart raced, I took a step back. "Why do you want this?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. "To play." They shrieked in unison with glee, as if my question had reignited their excitement. "It's our Bramble. You have to bring him to the park." Confusion clouded my mind. The park? I had just been there. Was it just a moment earlier that I saw the poster? I felt the urge to turn away, but an unseen force pulled at me. "What park?" I felt breathless, trapped in their gaze. "Where we always play. You'll love it." They pranced around, their laughter ringing like a chilling melody. Suddenly, the world shifted again. I felt a pull, stronger this time. Everything spun, blurring until I recovered my balance, but in a new place. The once quiet street was replaced by the old park from the poster, vibrant yet unsettling. The kids surrounded me, grinning wider than before, eyes gleaming with anticipation. And just then, I realized, I had stepped into their world. The door behind me was gone, and I was stuck here, lost in a game I never agreed to join. "Welcome!" they yelled in unison. "Let us play forever." I stood frozen, feeling their collective gaze like icy fingers crawling up my back. The laughter echoed in my ears, a haunting sound that made my skin itch. I clutched Bramble tighter, the teddy bear's coldness only amplifying my unease. "What do you want to play?" I managed to ask, my voice trembling despite my efforts to sound confident. "Hide and seek." One of the kids piped up, a girl with pigtails and large, gleaming eyes. "You're it." Before I could protest, they scattered like leaves on a windy day. I blinked in confusion as they vanished among the trees and swings, laughter fluttering away with them. The park suddenly felt vast and empty, the bright colors of summer overshadowed by something darker. I took a tentative step. The ground felt soft under my feet, shifting as if it had a pulse of its own. I felt a strange urge to call out, but my gut told me silence was safer. Searching for a hiding place felt like a bad idea. I glanced around, catching glimpses of where the children might be hiding. But then, I noticed something odd. It was as if the trees and bushes looked different now, as if they were shifting silently, framing the scene. I turned, trying to pull myself away from the creeping dread. That's when I saw it. A small wooden sign partially buried in the overgrown grass, its letters weathered and barely legible. Forgotten playground. My heart sank. I suddenly felt like I was no longer in the same park I had visited earlier. "Hey!" A sing-song voice interrupted my thoughts. I turned quickly and saw a boy reclining lazily on a swing, his feet brushing the ground. He had a mischievous grin, and that unnaturally wide smile sent a fresh wave of fear through me. "You need to find us." I don't want to play." I stammered, my instincts screaming at me to run. "But it's so much fun," he replied, eyes sparkling. "And you only get one chance." Suddenly, the laughter swelled again, echoing through the park. I felt panicked. They were drawing closer, mocking my hesitation. "Come on, it's not scary. You'll have a blast." Looking around, I saw more figures blending into the shadows, watching and waiting. I couldn't stay. I turned to run, but the ground shifted beneath me, rooting me in place like invisible chains. "Don't go!" The girl with pigtails wailed, her voice now tinged with something darker. "If you leave, the game ends." I fought against the invisible grip, adrenaline surging through me. I had to escape this bizarre game, this twisted playground. But as I struggled, something grabbed at my leg, cold and clammy. I glanced down, horrified to see a small hand holding onto me, pale and thin. I screamed, my voice tearing from my throat. Then everything went dark. When the darkness lifted, I found myself back at the park entrance, standing beside the faded sign that read, "Welcome to Forgotten Playground." My heart raced as I glanced around. The kids were gone, but their laughter still lingered, echoing in my mind. It wasn't over. I could feel it. As I turned to leave, something caught my eye. Lying in the grass was another toy, a small spinning top that glinted menacingly under the sun. I reached down to pick it up, and at that moment, the laughter returned, louder and clearer, promising that this was only the beginning. I woke up again, the sunlight creeping through the cracks of my curtains, feeling both relieved and haunted. I had thought I was safe, but the image of the park and the children lingered in my mind like an unfinished puzzle. I shot up from my bed, heart racing, and the memories rushed back, unmistakable in their clarity. I could still hear their laughter ringing in my ears. They had been eerily cheerful, as if I was part of something I didn't fully understand. Bramble, the teddy bear, remained on my nightstand, its cold gaze unsettling. I tried to convince myself that it was all just a dream, a manifestation of stress. But deep down, I felt the weight of their presence linger, a shiver coursing down my spine. I decided to get out of the house, feeling compelled to seek answers. I needed to talk to Mary again. She must know more about the history of this town, about the children who seemed to haunt my nights. I quickly dressed and drove over to her place. Mary greeted me with her usual warmth, but concern etched across her brow. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she remarked, ushering me inside. I hesitated, the words caught in my throat. It felt uncomfortable to explain, but I needed to know what had happened. "Mary, I think there is something wrong with that house. I keep hearing laughter, seeing children, and they're demanding I play with them," I finally admitted, gripping the edge of the table. Her expression shifted. "I told you to stay away from that place." It's not just stories. The town has its secrets. I pressed on, fueling my determination. What happened there? Why are they still there? What do they want? Mary sighed heavily, her gaze dropping to the floor. A few decades ago, there was a tragedy. A group of children went missing, and the town's heart felt that loss deeply. Some people think their spirits never left, always searching for playmates in this realm. People have reported strange happenings near that house ever since. The words settled harshly. The connection to the children felt more tangible now, their laughter morphing from innocent to sinister in my mind. But what does it mean? What do they want with me? She looked at me, a mix of pity and wisdom. They want to keep playing, to hold on to what they lost. You're just another potential friend for their eternal game. Some have been fortunate and escaped with their sanity intact, others have become part of the stories playing alongside them forever. I felt the walls closing in, heart pounding with a newfound urgency. I have to go back. I blurted out, standing abruptly. I needed answers, some way to release myself from this nightmare. No. Mary grabbed my arm, concern filling her eyes. You don't understand. They want to let you go easily. If you go back, you might never return. The line between your world and theirs is thinner than you think. Gritting my teeth, I made up my mind. I have to confront this. I can't let them have power over me any longer. As I left Mary's house, her warnings echoed in my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling of being drawn back to the house. Every step toward that ominous structure felt like stepping deeper into a web spun by unseen hands. When I arrived at the house, a shiver coursed through me. The air was thick with anticipation, and I could hear the whispers that had haunted me all summer. Their childish laughter bubbled up, familiar and inviting. I pushed the front door open, heart pounding as it creaked in protest. The shadows inside seemed to draw closer, waiting to unearth their secrets. Would they play hide and seek with me again? I prepared myself, hoping to find answers, deeply aware that I was no longer just a curious bystander, I was now an active participant. As I moved through the house, the whispers guided me toward an old, musty closet that had always seemed locked. I hesitated for a moment before pulling it open. It was filled with layers of dust-covered toys and forgotten memories, but my gaze landed on a peculiar box tucked in the back corner. With shaking hands, I pulled the box toward me. It was decorated with faded images of the park I had seen in my dreams. I opened it, and inside, alongside old letters and photographs, was a single photo of the children, remembered faces, some familiar from my visions. My eyes flickered to the piece of paper resting atop the photo. Join us, it read in childlike handwriting, an invitation that felt more like a command. My heart raced as if they were beckoning me to come outside, to step into their world. As if responding to my thoughts, the laughter swelled, echoing through the corridors. Play with us. Come out and play. I stumbled back from the closet, panic gripping me. I had uncovered something I shouldn't have. Enough. I yelled into the growing shadows, but the laughter only intensified, swirling around me, suffocating in its volume. Enough. Everything around me started to blur, and the shadows reached for me once more, cold and familiar. I felt myself being pulled toward the darkness, just as I had in my dreams. But as fear washed over me, I summoned all my strength. Let me go. I screamed, forcing my way against the encroaching darkness. I felt a strong tug at the corners of my mind, but I pushed back harder, fighting against their siren song. For an instant, the laughter hesitated, as if wounded. But then it returned, more furious. I closed my eyes, drawing from deep within me, focusing every ounce of willpower. Let me go. I roared once more, and with a final push, I ripped free from their hold. Suddenly, bright light filled my vision. I found myself standing in the yard, the house behind me dark and silent. The laughter faded, leaving only echoes in the air. I stumbled back, disoriented, but I was free. I pulled myself together, gasping for breath. I looked back at the house one last time. For a moment, I could swear I saw them peering from the windows, those twisted smiles etched into their faces. "Play with us," they whispered, lingering in the breeze. As I turned away and ran, I felt both relief and dread. I made it out, but I could still feel them watching, waiting, and whispering their haunting lullabies. I wasn't sure if it was truly over or if a part of me would always be tied to that haunting call. Sometimes, in the dead of night, when the world is still, I still hear their laughter echoing in my mind. I wonder about the children and their game, and I know that part of me will always question if they're waiting for me to return.